Welcome to the deep dive. Our whole thing here is taking fascinating source material, really digging in and pulling out those key insights, the real gems, so you can get up to speed quickly and, well, thoroughly.
Exactly. Helping you get informed without wading through everything yourself.
And today we're diving into something truly foundational. We're going question by question through the very first session of The Law of One.
Session 1, January 15th, 1981. The very beginning.
Think of it as us unpacking the core DNA of this really intriguing text together. Maybe you read it, maybe not, doesn't matter.
Right. We're just exploring these ideas, seeing what clicks, looking for those aha moments.
Okay, so the source is that first recorded session. You've got a channeler, Carla Ruckert, and a questioner, Don Elkins.
And right off the bat, the entity, Ra, introduces themselves.
Yeah.
I am Ra. I have not spoken through this instrument before. Very direct.
Yeah, and they mention waiting for precise tuning because they transmit on a narrowband vibration.
It immediately signals that this isn't just casual chat. There's a precision, a delicacy to it.
And then that greeting. We greet you in the love and in the light of our infinite creator.
It sets such a distinct tone, doesn't it? Very positive, very expansive.
Definitely. And they state why they're contacting this specific group, something about needing a more advanced approach.
Yes, to understanding the illusions of your body, your mind, and your spirit in their search for truth.
Illusions, that word always jumps out. What do you think they mean by that? Like, our reality isn't real.
Well, maybe not real, but perhaps
Yeah.
incomplete.
Yeah.
Like we're only seeing part of the picture, which leads right into their central point, doesn't it?
The big one, speaking for the Confederation of Planets in the service of the infinite creator.
They say all things, all of life, all of the creation is part of one original thought.
Boom! There it is. The foundation. Everything from one source.
It's massive. And they use that beautiful analogy, right? The dancing thoughts.
Yeah, in a ballroom in which there is no material. Like, we're expressions of this thought, maybe not fully getting that we're all connected.
Exactly. Like unique patterns, eccentric patterns even, all emerging from that single unified consciousness. We're all part of the same dance.
I love that image. Okay, so with that stage set, the questioner jumps right in. First question.
Question 1.1 in the transcript.
He asks about the Confederation's purpose, and Ra's purpose specifically. Like, what are you guys actually doing?
And Ra's answer is quite specific. They say, we are of the law of one. Not just love or light, but the law of one itself.
What's the distinction there, do you think?
Well, they explain that in their vibration, polarities like love and light or wisdom and love, they're harmonized. Complexities simplify, paradoxes resolve.
So it's about integration, reaching a state beyond polarity.
That seems to be it.
Yeah.
They are one. And then they touch on their history with Earth. They've been involved for a long time.
Right. They say they're old upon your planet, trying to transmit this law of one, this unity, with varying success.
Which is pretty honest, I think. They even mentioned being physically present here in the past.
Yeah. But
And
they stopped doing that, yeah.
they just say it was not efficacious. It didn't really work effectively.
Huh. Interesting. Maybe direct intervention isn't always the best way to teach something like oneness.
Perhaps it needs to be realized from within. So their current role, they say, is more subtle, removing distortions given to the law of one.
Until the end of the cycle, whatever that means exactly. And they're outside of time.
We are not a part of time, so
Yeah.
they can connect whenever, essentially. A timeless perspective.
Okay, that leads perfectly into the next question, 1.3. The obvious one, really.
Did they Ra?
Exactly. Are you the Ra the Egyptians knew?
And the answer is yes, but nuanced. I am Ra. Yes, the connection is congruency. Congruency, not identity necessarily.
Like a resonance, a shared vibration or purpose.
Seems like it. They offer to elaborate, which the questioner immediately takes them up on in 1.5.
Right. Can you tell us more about your role with the Egyptians?
And here we get into the idea of a social memory complex. That's how Ra identifies not as one person, but a collective consciousness.
A group soul, kind of.
Sort of, yeah. In this complex, Ra contacted the Egyptians. Simultaneously, others from their density were contacting people in South America.
The lost cities. So it was a coordinated effort.
Apparently,
Yeah.
all aimed at contributing to the understanding of the law of one, trying to plant that seed of unity.
And in Egypt, they found someone who could decree the law of one. Akhenaten, presumably.
That's the general interpretation, yes.
Yeah.
Someone who got it and could share it?
But it didn't stick, did it?
No. Ross says the message got distorted very quickly. By the priests, by the people, they lost the compassion, inherent in unity.
Compassion, because if everything is one, you can't really hate or exclude anything, can you?
Precisely. Ra says unity contains all, it cannot abhor any. When that compassion was lost, the message became twisted.
So Ra withdrew.
Yeah, they removed themselves from what they call a hypocritical position. The message of unity was being used in ways that denied it.
And then things went back to focusing on polarity, on
Ah.
separation.
That's what they describe. Understanding based on polarity reemerged. A sort of spiritual setback, you could say.
Wow. Okay, then there's a question, 1.7, that's apparently inaudible on the tape.
Right, we don't know the question, but we have Ra's answer. And it's profound. It's about infinity.
They talk about the universe being infinite.
They say it hasn't been proven or disproven, but they assure the questioner that there's no end to yourselves, your understanding, your journey of seeking. Endless potential.
That's comforting in a way. But how does infinity connect to unity?
Well, Ra makes a fascinating logical point. That which is infinite cannot be many, for manyness is a finite concept.
Okay, wait, say that again?
To be infinite, it must be unity. Because if you had multiple separate things, even infinite things, they would limit each other just by being separate. True infinity requires oneness.
That actually makes a strange kind of sense, like boundaries imply finiteness.
Exactly. And they use the prism analogy. Sunlight enters, seems singular, then breaks into many colors.
But it all comes from the one source of light. Simple, but effective.
Very. And this leads to the idea about right and wrong.
Oh yeah, this bit is mind-bending. No right or wrong, no polarity.
In truth, there is no right or wrong,
Yeah.
because ultimately, all will be reconciled in the dance of experience. It's all part of the journey back to recognizing unity.
So even the bad stuff serves a purpose in the grand scheme.
That's the implication. They call the perception of separation a distortion, one that we choose as an alternative to grasping the unity that binds everything.
We choose it, like subconsciously maybe, for the experience.
Perhaps. It's a deep thought. And then they deliver that incredible statement.
The big one. You are not speaking of similar or somewhat like entities or things.
You are everything, every being, every emotion, every event, every situation.
You are unity. You are infinity. You are love light. Light love. You are.
This is the law of one. Just wow. It lands with such weight.
It really does. It's like the ultimate statement of interconnectedness. And then Ra offers to elaborate further, which is quite generous.
Always willing to clarify. Then we move to question 1.9. Though the question itself is partly obscured by noise, it's about coming planetary changes.
Right. What's Ra's take on the apocalypse now?
Interestingly, no. First, they pause, wanting the channeler, the instrument, to be in a deeper state, that one-pointedness.
Again, emphasizing the need for clarity in the connection.
Exactly. And then they say the changes are very, very trivial.
Trivial, really, like earthquakes and pole shifts. Trivial.
From their perspective, yes.
Yeah.
They say we do not concern ourselves with the conditions which bring about harvest.
Like graduation to another level of consciousness.
That's the concept developed later, yes.
Yeah.
So the physical changes are secondary to the spiritual opportunity, the potential for soul growth, it seems. Their focus is way bigger picture.
Okay. Shifts the perspective, definitely. Next question, 1.10. Can we speed up understanding in others, or is it purely an individual thing?
A great question, and Ra gives a two-part answer. First, they dissolve the premise of separation. They say, from their view, there is no other self. So learning and teaching are the same thing. Unless you teach something you aren't actually learning or embodying yourself, then it doesn't help anyone.
So walk the talk, essentially. Your own learning is the teaching.
Beautifully put. That's the essence of it. Then the second part introduces group individuated consciousness.
Meaning.
Sharing understanding with those around you, those mind-body-spirit complexes you can reach.
Like ripples in a pond.
Exactly. And Rob points to their own communication as an example. They're doing it right then, accepting the difficulties and distortions of language to share the law of one.
They even acknowledge how hard it is, calling their attempt both necessary and near hopeless.
There's a real humility there. And they praise the group for trying to digest and share the information accurately.
Because even reaching a few is worth it.
To serve one is to serve all. It loops back to unity again. This learn-teach, teach-learn dynamic is seen as the most vital activity.
Demonstrating the original thought in action.
Right. And they caution against distortions that come from things being unexplained or mysterious, praising the group's effort to be clear.
Makes sense. Then, pragmatically, the questioner asks in 1.11 if Ra will be available again. Can we call you again?
And Ra confirms, yes, the contact is good. thanks to the channeler's recent trance work. But then they immediately shift focus to caring for her.
Right, the aftercare instructions.
Yeah.
Very specific.
Very brief silence first, then repeating her name Alrak or Carla until she responds.
Why LRAC?
Rack calls it the vibratory complex, which contains the largest amount of, shall we say, love? It's the name with the most resonance for her soul, apparently.
Interesting. Then laying hands on the neck?
To recharge her energy and giving her water charged with love.
Charged with love. How does that work?
Ra says by visualization, infusing the water with love, they note she's sensitive to that vibration. It shows a real tenderness and respect for the channeler's well-being.
It really does. And a strict warning. Don't touch her until she answers to her name.
Highlighting her vulnerability post-contact. Her physical energy is low, Ra notes, though her heart keeps her open. That's why they have to leave.
And they conclude the session
With that beautiful sign-off, I leave you in the glory and peace of unity. Go forth in peace, rejoicing in the power of the one Creator. I am Ra.
a perfect closing. So reflecting on this first session, what are the big takeaways?
Well, obviously the core concept, unity, everything stemming from one original thought. That's huge.
Absolutely. And Ra's role as messengers of this law, their history, the distortion in Egypt.
Yeah, the lesson about compassion being essential to truly understanding unity. That's powerful.
And the nature of infinity being linked to oneness, the idea that we are everything.
That profound affirmation of interconnectedness, plus the idea that learning and teaching are two sides of the same coin.
It really lays such a rich foundation, doesn't it? So many deep ideas packed into just one session.
Definitely. Statements like, you are dancing thoughts, or just simply, you are unity, they really stick with you. It offers such a unique lens on reality.
It does. So maybe the final thought for everyone listening is to just sit with that idea for a bit. What if everything does come from one original thought?
How might that shift how you see the world, your interactions, yourself? What does it truly mean to be part of everything?
If this sparked something in you, definitely explore the law of one further. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Namaste. Go forth in that love and light, rejoicing in the beautiful dance of unity.